Hi everyone, this is Debbie and welcome to the Sane Progressive. I want to talk a little bit about the direction of Sane Progressive, the foundational premise of this channel, and the things that I'm going to be turning my attention to. I really do not want to continue to talk about Bernie Sanders. I think I've made my position on this very, very clearly known. And it has been a very strange position because basically I have put forth foundational arguments based on fact, based on the documentation of Sanders' behavior, his actions, his documented dishonesty, and his actions that have actually been propping up the establishment. And I think it's very strange how, because my channel has taken this position, which is pretty much not in line with about 95% of the other social media channels, I have become more of the discussion than actually sometimes even the arguments that I'm giving. And what I have been trying to tell people around this subject is this is not about Bernie Sanders. As an activist, since I was 18 years old, inside and outside party politics, I'm now 46, I've watched the machinations of political manipulations for a very long time. I have engaged in the kind of compromise and not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good myself for many, many years. And after 25 years of being a political activist, both on issue-oriented politics and party-oriented politics, this is what I have come to believe. The only anchor that you can have in trying to create political change is not within beliefs around party or beliefs around politicians. The only anchor you can have is within yourself. So what I have basically been advocating for is for the American people, citizens, individually to find what their ethical premises are, their personal political beliefs are, their foundational beliefs of what they believe is acceptable and what you can compromise on. And I've been telling people to act from this place. When I'm saying that I don't want to support Senator Sanders, it's not based on Senator Sanders. I have developed a premise that going forward, I am not going to support any politician, Senator Sanders or any politician. Let me say that again. Any politician who lies about war. That's my premise. My premise is I do not want to give money, time, investment into politicians who spew propaganda of the war machine. It's a deal breaker for me. It's a deal breaker. That's my premise. I do not want to invest in any politician that props up establishment politics. That's a basic foundational premise for me. And for people who are, continuing to hold on to these arguments around compromise, let me tell you, compromise has brought us nothing. Compromise has resulted always, 100% of the time, in the past decades, in us losing any kind of foundational representation for the people whatsoever. Because when everything is up for negotiation, you will bend on any, and I'm talking any foundational premise, then nothing is held to. So it really is my belief that if we want to create change in this country, it is around having a foundation of what we stand for individually and holding to that premise. People have been blasting me left and right. People have been acting like this is some kind of extremist viewpoint to take. The discussions around whether or not to continue to support Sanders focus on me instead of his actions. And I would implore people, stop having the discussions around me. It has nothing to do with me. If you think it is okay that Senator Sanders is spewing the same kind of lies on Russia as Dick Cheney, talk about that and why it's acceptable. Don't make it about the messenger. If you think it is okay that Senator Sanders is spewing the same propaganda of the war machine, talk about that, not about me. Because what I'm saying is these actions should be deal breakers. And H.A. Goodman contacted me. He wants to debate me. What does the community want to debate me on? My premise is simple, and it's this. I don't abide by being lied to anymore. I don't abide by being manipulated. I don't abide by politicians talking out both sides of their mouth and decrying on one hand what they're doing on the other. When Sanders gets up and says we need to oppose Trump across the board on all of his actions, but then joins in to vote for Department of Homeland Security, his Department of Homeland Security cabinet pick and his National Defense Secretary, and sign that letter to Israel condemning the UN for holding Israel to account for their psychopathic behavior. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't know why progressives want to have anything to do with it. We talk about a movement based on politicians. This all needs to fall away. Is this really so complicated? Is it this complicated that we just say, no, I will not stand with the propaganda of the war machine. I will not stand with the lies on Russia, which has been a mind fuck of the American people. It has been a diversion. It has been a way to drive up Russia as the new enemy, obfuscate election fraud, and fight Donald Trump not on actually honest terms, because the reason that the Democrats aren't going after Donald Trump on the real meat and potatoes is because the Democrats stand with him on this. And this is the situation we're in. And I'm really tripped out that I have been so chastised and ostracized within this community because I say this stuff. I really am not interested in being the person who plays this role. My actual beliefs on our political system is that they've usurped everything. We are in such a crisis. We're screwed. We're screwed. And everybody feels this way. We are all in a friggin' checkmate. And people are trying to go back to any kind of solution, things that haven't worked, things that have played themselves out because they don't know what to do. And really, my premise is simple. Stop doing what hasn't worked. Stop propping up what hasn't worked. I'm really, really frustrated and fed up with the role. And I want to change the direction of my channel. I don't want to talk about Senator Sanders anymore. If you guys want to co-opt him, if you want to draft this person who goes against the things you say that you support, knock yourself out. Knock yourselves out. I don't get it. And we're not going to agree because we have such a basic different premise that we're operating from. My premise is take out the politicians, take out the party, and let us organize around ethics, truth, and honesty for a change, and stop trying to manipulate and pretzel ourselves around political systems and politicians who talk out of both sides of their mouth, completely hypocritical. Because ultimately, the reason they're that way is because we're that way. Because we do not consistently hold to anything. We watch people, it's always this way. Every person who supports a politician or a party, if they are in line with that party, when that politician or that party betrays them, when their person does it, it is always that person is practicing strategy, that they are operating within the narratives that they are forced to operate within. They are compromising. But when other politicians do the exact same thing, we'll call it out as betrayals if we don't support them. And it makes us all hypocrites. We are such hypocrites. And we're always 4, 6, 8 years behind the reality of how our politicians govern. And this is an old pattern that I'm in. I had this happen to me when I was the lead blogger, one of the top bloggers on Democratic Underground. They would feature my blog on the front page of their posts near every day of the week. And then when I started talking about Obama in real time, I was talking about how Obama was selling out in real time. Now, a lot of people are finally, 8 years later, getting what you could know from day one. But it's the same thing that I went through then. It's the same thing. The people who loved me when George W. Bush was president and I railed against George W. Bush wanted to stone me as a witch when I called Obama out for the same thing. And it's repeating again. It's repeating again. Now that I'm calling Bernie Sanders out for the exact same thing I would call any politician out, people want to burn me as a witch again, say that I'm unreasonable, say that I'm like, I'm not playing chess. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. What we need in leadership is we need people who are fiercely honest, who have an ethic, who will not behave in these ways and will not compromise our most core basic principles. It's really not that complicated. It isn't that complicated. But people, it's like there is nobody else to hold on to. There is absolutely nobody else that people have to cling to. And so Sanders becomes it. It's the same thing all over again. And we're being herded in the same way. We're being managed in the same way. The same patterns that you've seen for decades about how Democrats use controlled opposition are playing out again before our very eyes. When do we recognize these patterns? When do we become smarter than them? When do we realize how they manage us and then be like, I'm not playing along with that game anymore. I've heard this song before. I've seen this dance. I've seen this theater. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not playing the game. If all it takes is for the Democrats to co-opt whatever latest populist politician or populist message that we have and get us to be trying to organize around that instead of organizing around truth and principle and what we actually stand for, then we are never going to go anywhere. It's a broken record that keeps skipping and skipping and skipping and skipping and skipping. And I'm in this weird position of saying, don't support somebody who's lying on war. Don't support somebody who backs drones. Don't support somebody who is standing in lockstep with this Israel bullshit. Just don't do that. I'm done. I really think, there is no compromise. You don't compromise. It's why we have a society that treats war as a norm. We treat war as a norm in this society. We think empire is normal. We shrug our shoulders. We don't even give a shit. Half of our money is spent on this stuff. Even our progressive politicians back and vote for the military budgets, and we act like that's just fine. But then we also want to be anti-war. We want to be anti-war. Well, we try to draft people who put the propaganda of the war machine. You don't get both. You don't get both. You either hold to your integrity or you don't. And the compromise is bullshit. It gets us nothing. It gets us nothing. We need to tear this down and build strong foundations. And the only thing that I can think that will give us a hope of doing anything differently is truth. We need truth. We need honesty. We need leadership that knows how to fight on the premise of how to take power. We need to find our integrity as a people again. And if people think that they're going to get some kind of rescue from a politician who is going around as their lead spokesperson, specifically hired to be the outreach coordinator, have you heard Sanders say one word on the fact that the Democratic Party just claimed in court that they have the right to defraud their constituents and manipulate and basically cheat their constituents because they are entitled to run their primaries any way that they believe? In this very week, where is he? Has he said a word on that? Has he said a word on the establishment defrauding his constituents? Has he said a word on it? What kind of leader stays silent on that? And there's something very sick, guys, about people who talk about Bernie Sanders as this great leader, but can't be held to account for any of his actions. Which is it? Which is it? He's supposed to be this amazing leader who is our hope, but you can never call him out on anything that he does because he's not responsible for it. I don't even get the divorced, magical thinking around this. And I know the foundational argument of people who are trying to draft Bernie Sanders is this. They think, well, if Bernie will come over to our side and act 100% in opposition to everything he's been doing, then we'll have a list of people to support us. Bernie Sanders has not shown one single action that shows that this is what he wants to do. Every single action, 100% of his actions has been with the Democratic Party, has been with touring with the Democratic Party, has been with having unity conferences with the Democratic Party. And you can't fight the establishment if you prop the establishment up. You can't. You can't. Anybody who would go along with the theater of a unity commission, he agreed to a unity commission which is stacked. The majority of people will be put on this unity commission, and it is completely stacked with the majority being Perez and Clinton appointees. How do you get any kind of unity when they have the majority and you already know what they're going to do? And how can you even agree to participate in a unity coalition that includes a private health insurance president, that includes a marketing representative from Precision Strategies, which was basically the company that did the award-winning bullshit Hopi Changey campaign for Barack Obama. And that's what this Unity Commission is. It's theater. And when Bernie Sanders participates in that bullshit and pretends that that's legitimate and it pretends that's compromise, he is propping up bogus theater which is being specifically used to manipulate the people that he supposedly wants to liberate from the establishment. It's weird, guys. It's really, really weird. I don't know where the other social media is pointing this out other than Claudia. And I really am starting to be more with the kind of social media channels that aren't talking about political figures at all. Because the party systems are usurped. The power is usurped. The corruption of the money has claimed our system, and our election systems are usurped. And we are kind of a checkmate. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't try to figure out a solution to all of this, but really, we have got to stop being that broken skipping record. Again and again and again and again and again. And it seems to me that the political system has it dicked. They got it so all they need to do is change the face. All they need to do is to change the message, and we're brought right back. There is no real organization going around in terms of political party organization right now. The hope is with the movements that are organizing on issues on the ground. And issue-oriented politics and individual actions of how we act in our daily lives are going to have to be it. I'm not interested anymore in trying to figure out how to fix this total destroyed and collapsed system. I don't know what to do in that. So, you know what I'm going to do this week? I'm going to have Jeffrey Sterling's wife on, Holly Sterling, who was the wife of persecuted whistleblower Jeffrey Sterling. Their family has been ruined. Barack Obama's administration destroyed this African-American man's lives and this family's lives as he propped up Hillary Clinton, who actually jeopardized classified information, actually risked national security, actually did betrayals, these criminal betrayals, which Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama and the entire Democratic Party could care less about. They could care less about. They're endorsing this person who should be in jail. Jeffrey Sterling shouldn't be in jail. Hillary Clinton should be in jail. And we think that we're some kind of progressive community when we would vote for either Hillary Clinton, who basically broke every law in the book, and people are serving jail time, life sentences for doing a fraction of what she has done, and had their lives destroyed, or Bernie Sanders, who endorses somebody who needs to be in jail, and Barack Obama, who props up somebody who needs to be in jail. Well, Jeffrey Sterling has been denied basic care. I'm looking at that. That's not okay. One of those things should appall us. So, it's like we're so full of our own shit. I want to hold the people to account. I don't even want to talk about Sanders or friggin' these politicians anymore. I want to hold the people to account. What the hell's wrong with us that they can put Chelsea Manning behind bars, and they can destroy Jeffrey Sterling's lives, and they can mass murder people all over the globe, and we think that we're friggin' progressives and we're cool because we'll support that? What the hell is wrong with us? What the hell is wrong with us? Do you know the level of brainwashing and sick thinking that it takes, and how collectively ill a society has to be when that is all normal and that isn't deal breaker shit? That is really, really sick. Really, the things that we accept as normal, batshit crazy. Batshit crazy. And you want to end batshit crazy, then stop accepting batshit crazy as a norm. That's what's driving me nuts. I can't take the dishonesty anymore. I can't take it. And so maybe I don't know who to advocate for or what to do, but I know this. Do not stand with bullshit. Do not stand with liars. Do not stand with people who manipulate and then rationalize it's cool to manipulate because that's the way the game is played. That's fucked up. That very mindset, that brainwashed Kool-Aid mindset, that you will go along with that because that's the way the game is played. Stop accepting that's the way the game is played. That's how brainwashed we are. We don't even understand these basic premises. These basic premises are like radical. Oh, you can't not support somebody who lies around war. You can't support. That's radical. You don't understand how politics work. Yeah, I do understand how politics work. I'm no one better, somebody who's been doing it for 27 damn years. I understand how it works. Everybody self-deludes, pretends when their politician does the exact same thing as other politicians, it's somehow cool, and we play this sick game, and round and round and round and round and round and round we go. And you know what? We don't need no big analysis anything anymore. You know, I do all these videos. I do videos talking about the latest lie, the latest propaganda that is being used to expand the latest war. I'm watching the latest game of how the Democrats are saying, oh, we won a victory because there was only a $12.1 billion increase in the military-industrial complex spending instead of $30 billion. See us go? Good cop, bad cop, good cop, bad cop. It's like, you know what? This is so simple. You don't even need all this shit. They lie. Our government is friggin' usurped. It's corporate and military industrial interests. They control it from behind the scenes with these shadow interests, and the politicians bend to it so that they can have their own place and their own power within it. And if you play the game, you have power. Bernie Sanders is playing the game, and he would not have the feature of the corporate media if he wasn't playing the game. And every action shows he's playing the game. Every action. The words of his mouth are coming out of his mouth are the same as Dick Cheney's on Russia. This is weird. So, you know, and it's not about Sanders. It's not about Sanders. It's about us. It's about us having no fucking basic ethic. Not being able to stand for truth and then uniting around that. You know what? I don't care about the friggin' system in Washington. They're liars. They're corrupt millionaires and scum. They hold us in nothing but contempt. They started a class war against us. They strip all our benefits away. And you know what? It's like they always have their token progressive. And Bernie Sanders is playing that role. I don't even know what to say anymore, because we are in such a state of total crisis in this country. And I just will not be dishonest. I will not play being dishonest. I don't want to talk about Sanders anymore. This is my last video on him. If you guys want to go, anybody who's still out there, if you don't like me because I'm saying this, and you think that you're going to do the exact same thing that has failed for decades, and you're going to fix things, and you're going to ignore the election fraud, which Sanders is lying to cover up with the Russia fairy tale, go ahead. Go ahead and play and walk in that same circle again and again and again and again and again, and be codependent enablers to this system of insanity. And you know what? Maybe there is nothing to be done, because I think a lot of people are reaching that conclusion, because it seems like you need mass crisis, like bombs falling on our country, or our food supply disrupted, or the water supply disrupted, or the whole thing falling apart before people will finally have their eyes snapped open to the level of crisis this country actually faces. I actually think that is the situation we're in. You know, we can talk about political analyzing all day, but you know what this basically boils down to is human nature. And human nature needs crisis to create change. And human beings seek out the familiar and repeat the same patterns. We are just a bunch of monkeys with cars, myself included. We really are. We're a species that has never evolved to deal with the technological implications or the friggin' ethical implications of what we have manifested during this industrial revolution, and we are careening out of control. And you know what? Maybe this rant doesn't make any sense, but you know what? This is how I think so many people are talking, and so many people are seeing it. And it's one of the reasons I have almost stopped the channel, specifically because I watch, and again, we got 200,000 people marching for the climate. And they'll have signs, and they'll do their thing, and every single law that protects the climate and every single thing is being rolled back. And the protest at Standing Rock, what happened? They plugged it in, and it went through anyways, even with people being shot, even with rubber bullets and losing their visions and their arm. This is the shit we're dealing with. We do not ever have a victory in this system. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what we do. Every single thing is continually marched on, and it gets worse. And we are at the point where that's not going to change until it's millions, tens of millions of people in the street. People totally withdrawing from this system entirely. It's not going to change any other way. It's not going to change through voting. It's not going to change through voting. It's not. The election systems are gone. The election systems are gone. The Department of Homeland Security, which is basically a Gestapo organization, took over our election infrastructure. Every week. Do you know how many election integrity activists I have who write me? And you know what they say to me? I quit. And people who have been working on it for 15, 20 years, you know what they're telling me? These are the fighters. These are the people who have been fighting this. And they come to me and they say, you know what? This is getting worse by the day. The politicians who have their campaigns cheated don't talk about it. The system's gone. I quit. I unregistered to vote. I'm not playing this game anymore because it's so sick and so corrupt. I'm not playing. I'm not giving it any credibility. It's all a lie. These are the election integrity activists, and I'm not going to give you their names because it's not for me to be coming out publicly with what they're telling me in private. I get that from people, long-term activists, top election integrity activists. Now, not everybody's quitting, and people keep doing this, and there's other people who are fighting the fight, but people are seeing what is happening as a pointless circle. And I think it's important to say this out loud because I think a lot of people are feeling despondency over actions that are not resulting in real change. And I think that acknowledging and just saying out loud what so many people are thinking may push us together to maybe having wider discussions about going a different way. I don't know what the solution is, but nobody does. Nobody does. We are living in the midst of collective insanity with batshit crazy norms and pretending mechanisms that no longer exist to remedy it actually are still available to us. So we can talk about this, you talk about it and you talk about it and you talk about it and you go round and round and round. And so one of the reasons I took a break was, what am I going to even say to people anymore? What am I even going to say to people anymore? You know, my personal belief has been, I'm going back to my Buddhist things. I'm listening to Pema Chodron and Muji most of the time. I'm meditating. I'm withdrawing from the insanity because it's the only thing that I can find that gives me any clarity at all. Even in trying to engage in logical discussion with people who are supposedly, in my beliefs around policy, I can't have cohesive discussions, and I'm being put on the side for making my approach be about foundational ethic and truth rather than strategies around politicians and political systems. I can't be that. My belief around how we solve problems is not about any of what people are doing. My belief is personal, collective, personal responsibility moving into a collective evolution. People don't want to hear that shit. All they say to me is, you don't have a plan, Debbie. What's your plan? Who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to donate to? What are you going to do with all that? I don't. All I know is how I can take personal responsibility to be kind in my own life, to adhere to ethics in my own life, to speak truth, to not bend on my principles, to speak out for people who are disempowered and give them a voice where I have the means. That's all I know how to do. So I am withdrawing this channel from the friggin' political activist insanity. I'm not interested in it. If that is not what you're interested in watching and you want to keep going round in circles with that, that's fine. I'm not expecting everybody to share my beliefs or whatever. I have total respect for what other people want to do, and it's not for me to dictate how this is supposed to go. All I know is that I have completely lost belief in it, that all I know is that an individual community level, one by one activism is the only thing that I see. And my channel is really going to turn into talking about that kind of thing and talking about specific actions that we can take that will have a direct, tangible thing in the world. I don't want to try to figure out how to fix this impossible situation in Washington, because I do truly believe that until bombs fall on our soil, or until the friggin' water supply is contaminated, or California falls into the ocean, or New York falls into the ocean, or we have some kind of mass chemical attack on our soil, that is when the American people are going to come forward. And when we move into that next phase, that is when the mechanisms of the police state are going to be rained down on this country. And this country is not at all prepared. Not at all prepared. We can't even talk about the truth and reality of the most basic shit, let alone the machinations of the power interest of what they've put in place to control the population when the shit really hits the fan. These kind of conversations, I guess this is a ramble and a rant, but I'm just so done talking within the confines of these lie narratives and these manipulations. Tell me the truth. I don't care how awful the truth is. I don't care if it's horrible. I don't care if it means that you're going to tell me that we're going to die in a nuclear war tomorrow. Anything but lies. I cannot stand being manipulated. I cannot stand the dishonesty. I cannot stand the lack of ethics. I can't stand the hypocrisy. I can't stand for people supporting in one what they say that they can't stand in the other. I can't stand people blaming Donald Trump for a system that has been usurped for decades and built on the foundation of friggin' friggin' stealing of indigenous land built by slaves. I cannot stand the lie anymore. I cannot stand the people who spew it. I can't stand the people who are trying to friggin' make themselves a place of some kind of social media fame, propping this up as if we're like doing a nightly news show. I can't stand the insanity anymore. It's nuts. It's nuts. Let's just be honest. It's insane. It's insane. And this is not going to get me. These kind of rants aren't going to grow me any kind of social media channel. And they're not going to get me featured as reporters that are considered to be, sanctioned by what is, the next generation of pundits. But I don't even care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Everybody can unsubscribe to me because the only thing that I really care about is telling the truth and just being like saying out loud what so many people think and and I'm sick of trying to make sense out of insanity. How do you keep trying to do videos when everything has gone insane, when our premises are insane, when it's all based on a lie, when we all are acting as hypocrites in one way or another? How do you even keep reporting on it? It's like it's this sick kind of twisted social game we play. I don't get it. I don't get it. So it's interesting. I want to see what people are wrong on my policy cures. What are our policy cures? Global warming skeptic. What are our policy cures? Global warming skeptic. In a time when we can't get any legislation passed that is not for the benefit of military industrial profit or corporate power. What are my policy solutions? We don't even have the mechanisms to put any policy solutions in place. So what are they? What are they? I'm wrong on policy? My policy is stop lying. My policy is stop hating each other. My policy is stop pretending stop pretending. I don't really have much more than that. I don't have any big solution. In all these policy discussions, I see people talking about $15 minimum wage, which is something I agree with. But the fact is that we don't even have the larger vision discussions of the fact that the majority of our jobs are being automated, and you can get $15 an hour of minimum wage for people who are fast food workers, but they're going to take away those jobs through automation anyways. So what is the victory of getting fast food workers $15 an hour when the jobs are going to be taken away? We don't even have the larger conversations around policy because we don't have the larger conversations around vision about how the system is actually structured. I mean, it's a trip and a half. We act like we're still 1940s industry. The entire world has changed technologically. People don't even need to work. They could work half time. They could work a fourth of the time. And if we learned how to share the wealth, we could be talking about how to expand the human consciousness through, developing our creativity and our sharing and our talents and problem solving together. But we're insane. We're monkeys with cars. So instead we talk about, winning $15 an hour for jobs that are going to be gone in 5 years. And it's not that I don't think that people should be paid a living wage for their work. I'm totally on board with that. But there's these larger discussions that don't even come into the conversation. Advocating for $15 an hour for jobs that are going to be gone pretty soon. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like we don't even have the foundational premises of a vision. It's weird. It's just weird. And I totally am on board with trying to make it good in the interim. And I think that people should be paid $22 an hour because that's what the minimum wage would be if it was adjusted for inflation from 1968. But it's so short-sighted. It's like we react to everything. Everything. We're always reactionary. There's no patience. There's no There's no long-term strategy. It's whatever manipulation in these 30-second news cycles. Weird. Smoke weed. People are telling me to. New approach is often necessary. You think $15 is too much, though? I suppose. I mean, you know, we were able to pay an affordable living wage, which equated to $22 an hour in 1968. I don't know why it's too much now, but okay. People Summits, talk of the interview. Don't stop, Debbie. Don't stop what? Losing my mind and rambling? Oh. Breathe. Just breathe. Luke, be the change. I love him. Hi, Ed. Yeah, reparations. Reparations for the class generation. Oh, take my meds. I love it. Okay. Because it's important when you're talking about a system that is entirely insane, usurped, and a lie, to make sure that you maintain the professionality of the corporate media pundits who give their news of death, destruction, and mass political brainwashing, be it red or blue Kool-Aid, and give it with a smile. Give it with that nice, calm demeanor. Give it with that absolute zombie-like a vibe of Stepford wife insanity. That's right. You know what? Everybody's insane. Everybody I've met has some kind of seed of insanity to them. So, and you know what? The people who think that they are the most sane and the most together, if you look at who is worshipped in these societies, are psychopathic. One of the things that I love watching is when people talk about how deranged Donald Trump is. He is. He's nuts. But I love it when they pine and say, oh, we need somebody like Obama. Obama was psychopathic. Obama implemented mass murder all over the world on lies. Obama signed into law things that took away our deepest rights. Obama propped up the mechanisms of the New World Order. All the psychopathic lying. But because he did it in a way that presented well, unlike Trump, who just shows it right on the surface, people felt good about that insanity. People felt good about the mass murders. People felt good about that lies. People felt that they were progressives for following somebody who was authorizing the use of chemical weapons against civilians to kill people, to frame Assad so that we could commit more war. And we thought, oh, well, that guy's a good guy. It's so weird. It's so weird. The normalization of crazy. That is my favorite. The normalization of crazy. Jill Stein. Here, Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky won't acknowledge 9/11. I'm getting sick of that, too. You know what? If I'm just going to be me, I don't want to deal with anybody who is a friggin' academic gatekeeper who won't talk about the facts around 9/11. That's another thing. This is perfect. My video, me bringing 9/11 up in this video, I'm going to be considered so far fringe for talking about, anybody who looks at the objective critical truth around that. They're also viewed as doozy bots. Good, Jimmy Dore admits. I like Jimmy Dore. He makes me laugh. He's one of the few people that makes me laugh. I don't get why he's propping up in Bernie Sanders what he's so mad about in the establishment, but other than that, Jimmy Dore is funny and he's brilliant in his analysis. He needs to leave the Turks. He needs to lead the Turks. There is a man, if anybody is the hope of actually having an alternative media network that has some of the respectability that you would need with, to keep it in with people who view the establishment craziness as respectable norm. Dor could do it. Dor could do it. And I think he actually, and I don't think he needs the Turks. I think that he is probably the one person who could get the alternative community to be led. I think he is the one. But he's going to have to walk the walk on Sanders. He can't keep propping up Sanders if he wants to go that road. You gotta call it out across the board. That's come on, Jimmy. I know you got it in you. Come on. I do too. I love Jimmy. I do. Did Jimmy spit in Alex Jones' face? Oh, good Lord. Caitlin Johnson, Tim Black, Abby Martin. Abby Martin backtracked on 9/11 because I think she, without giving any explanation, I like Abby Martin's work a lot, but she does the same thing as Chris Hedges and Chomsky. She originally stood with the 9/11 movement to expose the truth, and then she totally backtracked on it. And, and I get it. I get the concessions because I see what you need to do to grow viewers and to get the bigger audience. If I cared about growing this channel to keep meeting and getting more people, I would not be doing these kind of rants on my channel. The only thing I care about on my channel, the only thing I care about is having the freedom to say whatever is my truth. That's the only thing. And if I lose half my viewers for it, fine, go. People aren't obliged to watch me or stay with the channel. People don't want to be called loony conspiracy theorists. Now, of course they don't. Nobody wants to be called a loony conspiracy theorist. But the fact is that the truth of the reality of the way that this government is actually being worked, who is pushing the policies behind the scenes, actually is conspiracy. And the most ironic thing is that we have documented objective evidence for the United States implementing false flags, for engaging in conspiracies for decades. But if you talk about something that's new, well, that can't possibly be true, even though we know this is the history of how these agencies have worked and how these government mechanisms have worked. We couldn't possibly be experiencing how the entirety of how the government has acted for the majority of its inception. Of course not. Then you're a lunatic. I can't deal, and that's fine. I cannot deal with lies. I know the deep state has been doing false flags forever. Abby Martin is too hot to be a gatekeeper. That's terrible sexist shit. You cannot be judging female commentators on whether they're hot or not. It's about her truth. Let's see. I love the comments. And it's so funny. I've really had to learn to keep a sense of humor because in our community, we have people come on the board and they they say the meanest things to me. They say, my favorite is when they say to me, "Are you a man or a woman?" You are so mean. You are so mean. I tell you. Why you say those things? Was your mom mean to you? That you come on and say mean things to other people? That's not nice. There we go. Hey, are you a dude? Chris Hunter lives in a drawer. Oh, Rob Hill says, we'd love to buy you a drink. I can't drink. I don't get to drink. That's one of the things I love you. That's another thing I get on the channel, which cracks me up more than anything. People say, sometimes because I am very silly and my sense of humor is just out there and raw and real, they'll be like, "What are you on? What are you smoking? I want to have what she's having." I can't drink or do anything, because my constitution is so sensitive that one glass of wine will get me snockered and I will have a hangover like I drank a bottle of vodka the next day. That is how sensitively I am calibrated, and it sucks because I never get to just take a hit of pot or have a drink to put it all down. I just have to meditate and go for like a 10-mile hike or bike ride. There's no cheap substance that like keeps me that takes it away. It sucks. I would love it. I would love it if I could just have a drink or a hit of pot. Up, Anne has the same thing. Up, like it's just expensive weed. Man, the new weed is so friggin' strong. New weed is so friggin' strong. My ex used to be, he used to love the weed. He would have every kind of sativa and indica going on. The man was a connoisseur of pot. And, you know, he'd have the bubblegum kush and all like the lemonades, lemonade, sativa, all those branded names of pot, all those branded, and they were so strong. So strong. If you take more than a hit of that shit, this new weed, it's like friggin' LSD. It's strong shit. I'm totally for the legalization of pot. I'm totally for the legalization of pot. I think it's got great medical uses. The only thing I have with the legalization movement that kind of like I don't like is that they talk about pot as if it doesn't have any side effects whatsoever. It does. It's strong. The new shit is strong. But I think because they're trying to counter the propaganda of the reefer madness, people are loath to talk about how, the other side of pot. And that's another thing. I always have to talk about the full of it, even things that may go against my personal beliefs. So the pot movement, that's another thing. But it should be legalized. 100% legalized, and it should not be controlled by the friggin' big pharmaceutical companies who want to use it as their latest their latest cash cow. It should be just something that you grow in your yard. You endorse Debbie for prez, we'd have fun. We'd have fun. Been spoken since 1969. Debbie, we should start a support group. I work in Mass, we'll get drinks. I have wine, you can have a milkshake. Yeah, I think that's the way we need to go. And I don't really want to be adversarial to my fellow progressive community who really, that's the bottom line, is people, I think, we're really not on the separate pages in terms of wanting good things for the country, wanting sane policies for the country. I just can't get on board with anything that is centered around drafting somebody who is mirroring the very things that we want to stop. Because I think it's not even Bernie, it's the whole premise of what we stand for as a movement and making honesty be the center of that. That's the only thing. And other than that, I mean, I have a lot of admiration for the majority, not all, but the majority of the social media commentators who I view as misguided, and they certainly don't agree with me. But I love them. I love the social media commentator community. I really do have a lot of respect for the work. I'm just in an entirely different place and mindset, and it's and I understand also. When you are trying to develop a social media network, the vast majority of the country, because the vast majority of the country isn't even on social media, the vast majority of the country is still consuming mainstream media. The vast majority of the country are still, if you go out and you talk to people, are still in the mindset of this party system. So you're trying to develop an audience that and bring these people in, and the further you are out from the norm, the more it is harder it is to get more people to your channel. And part of it is just if this is something that you're trying to do for a living and trying to prop up your your channel, it's like, what are you allowed to say? Because one of the things I've realized doing this channel is people really do get the media that they deserve. I know that when I've said hard truths, a lot of times when I do videos that are expressing unpopular opinion or a position that is not going with the norm of the country, and I do believe it's the ethical position, and it is based on objective evidence and facts and documentation of what is happening, I lose a lot of subscribers. So, people talk about how they're pissed at the media, but when the media tells people things that they don't want to hear, you lose viewers, you lose subscribers. And if I don't do this channel for anything but volunteer, but if you are trying to get donations to your channel and prop it up, then you lose money and you lose the ability to keep a channel going. So I have a lot of compassion for what the social media commentator community is up against and trying to remain viable. T.O. Tom. Do I believe in aliens? I love this. Oh, Gal was wonderful. Gal was wonderful. Do you think UFOs are real? Oh my God, you guys are going to have me painted so far into the corner, Stay crazy and the deep state won't shut you down. That's what my partner always says. The love of my life, David, is he's the one he says, Debbie, he says, you're doing it just right, honey. He says you being somebody who is a little bit more fringe, they're not going to view you as the threat because you don't get the credibility of the mainstream, and so they're not gonna, so I can remain viable and keep my message slowly in the background. I don't know if that's gonna maintain that way, but I think he does have a point. I think that anybody who gets too big and gets taken too seriously will be squashed. I mean, look at what happened to Ben Swann. Ben Swann started to get millions of views doing those exposés on how the United States government has armed and sponsored terrorists, Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, ISIL in Syria and the Middle East. And he didn't even talk about Pizzagate in terms of actually accusing anybody. He just talked about a few basic things and saying that it should be looked at closer because there were some red flags. And that video, I think, got 2 million views, and he was gone. 2 million views, every bit was down on social media. Because Ben Swann was so respected. Ben Swann he was brilliant in the way he was doing it. He had it down. And I knew they were going to take him down because what did he have? He had that entire presentation of the way that people consume news. He had the local news presentation. He had the screen. He had the tie. He was like Ryan Seacrest. He was like the Ryan Seacrest of the alternative media. I loved Ben Swann. Ben, where did you go? It's too bad we lost you, but he was taken down. Boom, gone. Have I been approached by RT? I'm not approached by anybody. I think, I don't know what it is. I have been approached by a couple people wanting to do make channels, larger channels. I'm not interested in doing this for money and growing and making a media network. I really believe I think the second that money becomes an issue, or you have to be concerned about viewership, that is like when you start having your voice muzzled. If who you can get access to, I see it. I see people who I don't really respect very much starting to get a lot of elevation, and I don't want to get into naming names because I'm not really interested in getting into a tete-a-tete, but I see that some of the people who are willing to kind of play more in the color within the lines are the ones who are most successful in getting access and growing their channels. I love Chris Hedges, except for the fact that he's friggin' he won't speak the truth on 9/11. I really believe that 9/11 is something that the country needs to come to terms with. One of the brothers of the people who died in the tower, who is one of the lead people for the movement and getting the truth out on that, he says that 9/11 is the most important issue in the country, because if we could get the country to understand what happened on 9/11, we would get the perception shift that is necessary for the government, for people to understand how American government actually operates. And it's really true. It's the more you look at the available evidence and you listen to the people who have documented it, is so clear that the official story is a lie. And even if you don't go along with any particular theory, I don't know how anybody can question the need for another investigation, because if you look at on the terms of scientific legitimacy and logic and critical thought and objective thinking, the story does not make any logical sense. And it's weird because what is so astounding to me around 9/11 and other things such as that is how effective it is to silence people with being marginalized as fringe. If you're marginalized as fringe, that that threat, just being put in that group, it's amazing. Same thing with election fraud was what we dealt with, and I dealt with it with I think about half of the people who watched my channel would always say Bernie can't fight election fraud because they're gonna call him a name. The people who are cheating him are gonna call him a name, and you can't have that. You can't, because so I'm like, well, how perfect for them. How perfect. They can rig an election, commit mass fraud, steal the state, and then if we say anything, they'll frame us as crazy. It's like, you don't go along with that. You're like, no, I'm going to say that you're a fraud, and I'm going to call you out. And if you try to manipulate the discussion, I'm going to call that out just as hard. But one of the things that I see that it's almost a personality trait about people who either have something in their personality that pushes past that and does not tolerate that, or people who are more controlled by that kind of narrative. But I think actually, and this is why I often say on my channel, when I think about what kind of movement, people are like, Debbie, you need to lead a movement. My movement would be like nothing that you've seen. My movement would be like, okay, I want all the marginalized misfits of society. I want all the people who have been chastised and shamed and put outside and don't go along with these beliefs and feel like there's no place to put themselves. All of you, come on. That's, I would like to go on the Marginalized Misfits tour, because, and it'd be great. Would be great with a woman who has suffered from lifelong depression since she was 6 years old. who was a teen mom, who was friggin', who's been on friggin' food stamps, who's lost her home, who's had cars repossessed, who's like been in relationships with junkies, who's like every like social taboo. It's like, here I am. It's like, yay, come on guys. I'm gonna have every person, of the downtrodden community from the wrong side of the tracks walking by my side. That's who I want. Those are my people. I love you guys. You want to go on the Marginalized Misfit tour? Oh my God. You know how much fun we would have? Because we would have absolutely no constraints about what we would have to say or what we would have to do. I would I want to be walking hand in hand with the Tea Partiers, skipping down the road, we're done with you, we don't believe you anymore, na 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 na. We would have a blast. We would have so much of a blast. Everybody who believe, who is marginalized around seeing the truth around the conspiracy theorists. Everybody who is done with trying to kowtow to what the establishment allows. Because that's another thing that I keep seeing. People, they want to buck the establishment and criticize the establishment, but they still want access to the establishment because the establishment controls so much of the information. They control 95% of the media. 7 conglomerations control 95% of what we read, see, and hear. So you see a lot of the alternative community try to bend to get their message out through this the Orwellian Ministry of Truth outlets. And so, whenever you start, and that's how it happens. That's how it happened with Air America. Remember what happened with Air America? Rachel Maddow became one of the worst establishment proper-uppers going. But she started out as the alternative media community. And so she really played the game. Al Franken really played the game. You look at the commentators who went on to be famous or get a lot of power, and then you look at who didn't. Laura Flanders, is, as far as I'm concerned, from Air America, is probably the best commentator over there. She never went anywhere. And Randy Rhodes at the time actually was bucking the establishment. She's not anymore. She was on board with voting for Hillary Clinton, but I used to listen to her, and at the time she was still staying more true to her principles, and she got nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. She didn't get a sweet spot. And so, that's what happens to the alternative media community. It's how people get transformed, and the cycle keeps repeating, and they morph into the exact same thing. Your best, most important video yet. Talking about politicians or single issues is a complete waste of time. It's about exposing the structure and conspiracy of the deep state. It is. So, for people who want to debate me on Bernie Sanders, I love H.A. Goodman. I have a lot of respect for his work, but what are we going to talk about? What are we going to even say? What are we even going to say? I want to talk about the truth about how this government actually operates. I want to talk about what we individually can do to maybe help individual people, such as Jeffrey Sterling's wife, Holly, because I really want to do a fundraiser for her, because what has happened with Jeffrey Sterling is, for some reason, and I was talking with this on Holly on the phone the other day, she was saying that, the case has never gotten the public attention or the compassion of what we've seen with Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden. And, I hope people don't misinterpret when I'm talking about that, because I do think we should be giving money to Chelsea Manning and the fundraising for her. And I do think that we should be supporting Edward Snowden coming home. It's not an either or. But what I'm seeing is, with Jeffrey Sterling's case, that family is not being supported in the same way. And we need to absolutely be helping them and getting as many people as possible to help fundraise, because Jeffrey Sterling wasn't able to work for years. He was put in prison. He's never going to be hired. I mean, they've destroyed his ability to support his family and have a life. And the least that the American people can do, and thanks for him trying to stand up and be a whistleblower, is, give him some money. I mean, if 500,000 people gave him $1, he'd have $500,000 and maybe have enough to have some kind of semblance of a normal life once he left prison. I think that that is the kind of, it won't take back the destruction of his ability to have a career, and being forced into prison and being publicly shamed and being bullied and years away from his wife, but it would at least give something. So I want to fundraise for the Sterlings. I know Chelsea's going home this month. I'm so happy. I'm so thrilled that Chelsea's coming home, and I hope she can find some kind of peace in the aftermath. Debbie is one of those chicks that don't need an InfoWars super female vitality. Okay. Yeah, if you go over to my Sane Progressive Facebook page, you can get the basic information that I put up on the page to watch a little bit of footage from the Invisible Man, which is a documentary about Jeffrey Sterling. The letter that Holly Sterling wrote to Barack Obama to pardon Jeffrey Sterling, and the speech that Cornel West did at the National Press Club in Washington to implore, along with a petition of 150,000 people, the release of Jeffrey Sterling. So you can go and read all that, and then if you do that before we have Holly on, you'll have a background to the case. Please do give a shout out for David Gage, architects for 9/11.